So the params keyword in C#, it looks just like this, and it's short for parameters. But what does it mean and what does it do? Let's take a look at this example right here. I have a method that adds some simple integers together. It takes 4 parameters, it adds them all together, and outputs the result. And the method takes them in from whatever's calling it. So we're adding 2, 2, 4, and 5. And let's output the result. There it is there. So what, for example, if I want to add 2 numbers together? Or maybe I want to add 3 numbers together, or maybe 17 numbers together. But I want the same method to, and I only want one method. I want the same method and one method to add all of these numbers together. How do I achieve that? Well, maybe I could create a custom object, for example, feed in all the numbers, or maybe create a list and add all the numbers to the list. Then I can pass the list to this method. Essentially, that's what the params keyword does in this case. So when I use the params keyword, I type in params here into the method signature here, and it is a parameter itself. Next, I put the data type. Now, the data type can be pretty much anything. Behind the scenes, it uses the object data type, which is what all data types derive from anyway. But we're using integer. We can use custom objects if we wish, custom instances. It doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to call this list, because this list is going to contain all our numbers that we're passing to this method. Now, when working with lists, we're going to use something like a loop to loop through every item in this list so we can add all the numbers together. So let's do that now. So we initialize a variable to 0. This will keep a tally of all the numbers that we're adding together. So that should work right there. So we're looping through every number in the list, we're keeping a running tally, adding everything to this result here, and then outputting it. So we're going to get the same result here. So you can see 13. Now this is the power of the params keyword. Watch this. Okay, so I've modified the calling argument here to add a lot more parameters to this list. But you can see it hasn't caused any problems. And this is the power of the params keyword. If we were to build up a list, for example, and pass this into the method, then we would have to kind of modify the list in this way too. But you can see how this doesn't cause any errors at all. We can compile the software and we can run the software. And we have our expected result right here. So this is the power of the params keyword. It allows us to use one method to accept a varying number of parameters of the same type, and then it can work with that information. Now there are a few rules associated with this. There can only be one params keyword per method declaration. So for example, we can't have 2 of these, like so. It's not going to work. Secondly, the params keyword must come at the end of everything here. So if I have more than one parameter here, params must be at the very end. It can't be at the start, it can't be in the middle. So you can see an error has occurred here because it must be at the end of the list. And lastly, the params here must be a single dimensional array. It can't be a 2-dimensional array. It can't be anything weird like that. So there's some of the rules associated with the params keyword. So that is the power of the params keyword in C#. Yes, there are other ways of achieving the same results, but the more tools you have in your toolbox, the better developer you will become. So that's the params keyword in C#.